The crew has roughly an hour to destroy thousands of classified documents. Their only tools are hammers. Commander Lloyd Bucher watches North Korean gunboats slice toward him at 40 knots. His ship crawls at 12. The USS Pueblo is a floating vault. Every Soviet code the Navy owns, encryption machines worth more than the crew's lives. If those codes are captured, Moscow reads American secrets for the next decade. Bucher had requested scuttling charges before the mission. The Navy denied them. Now, with no way to sink the ship, he's out of options. His radio man screams for air support. The response crackles back. Stand by. American jets sit on a runway in Japan, engines warm, while someone in Washington does the math. 83 sailors versus a war nobody wants. The furnaces choke on paper. Hammers shatter against steel housings. Bucher can see faces on the gunboats now. Individual faces. In 200 years, the U.S. Navy has never surrendered a ship in peacetime. Lloyd Bucher is about to become the first. But the Navy didn't just abandon him. They planned for it. According to some crew members and critics, the mission's strict rules of engagement and lack of defensive support left Bucher with impossible choices. Washington needed a spy ship in North Korean waters. When it went wrong, they needed someone to blame. The Navy would later seek to court-martial Bucher for the very surrender these conditions made almost inevitable. The question isn't why Bucher surrendered. It's why the Navy sent him out there so poorly equipped to resist. January 23, 1968. The USS Pueblo steams 15 miles off Wonsan, North Korea, in international waters. She is not a warship. She is a converted freighter, a slow steel box mounting SIGINT antennas and two 50 caliber machine guns. Her job is to collect radio signals, not to fight. Commander Bucher commands 83 crew, most of them cryptologic technicians and linguists trained to intercept Soviet transmissions. The ship's diesel engines deliver a maximum speed of 12 knots. North Korean SO-1 sub-chasers were capable of significantly higher speeds, reportedly approaching 40 knots during the pursuit. That speed gap is not a detail. It is the first constraint in a chain that will end in capture. Both 50 caliber mounts are wrapped in frozen canvas tarpaulins. Peacetime protocol assumes diplomatic immunity, so the guns are stowed and ready ammunition sits locked in a magazine below deck. Unwrapping the canvas, mounting the ammunition cans, and charging the weapon will take at least 20 minutes under ideal conditions. The crew has never done it under fire. Below, the SIGINT spaces hold 3 tons of cipher machines, codebooks, and classified documents. There are no installed demolition charges, no scuttling system, no thermite grenades. The only tools for emergency destruction are hammers and axes. At noon, North Korean vessels emerge from Wonsan Harbor and close at high speed. Bucher orders flank speed. Pueblo accelerates to 12. The North Koreans signal, "Heave to, or we open fire." Bucher calculates distance and speed. At current rates, interception occurs in 20 minutes. He has no escort, no air cover, and no speed to run. The only variable he can control is time. And the clock is already running out. He radios for air support. The response is stand by. The gunboats keep closing. On deck, according to some dramatized accounts, crew members may have attempted to reach the weapons, though the frozen tarpaulins were stiff as sheet metal. Official Navy records indicate Commander Bucher ordered the machine guns to remain unmanned, recognizing that, even if operational, the exposed weapons would have invited a massacre. Estimates suggested it would have taken at least 10 to 20 minutes to unwrap the guns, retrieve ammunition from the locked magazine, and mount the cans in such conditions. The North Korean gunboats were already within range. Before any defensive action could be taken, a 57mm round hit the pilot house. Fireman Dwayne Hodges fell, mortally wounded. The ship's guns remained wrapped and silent. Below, the cryptographic team begins emergency destruction. They swing hammers and axes against cipher machines bolted to steel racks. The heavy metal enclosures of machines like the KW-7 were hardened against physical tampering, designed to resist exactly this kind of attack. Each machine takes considerable effort to break open, and there are 10 such devices in the research space. Codebooks pile up in the small incinerator, choking the furnace with smoke. The teletypes and punch tape readers are too large to burn. Officers estimated that destroying the vast quantity of classified material would take hours, time they clearly did not have, as the North Korean vessels closed in. The deck shudders as another round hits. Bucher realizes he cannot destroy the equipment before boarding. He has 3 choices: continue destruction and lose more crew to gunfire, scuttle the ship and risk drowning men below deck in freezing water, or surrender with most of the classified material still intact. The Navy has never surrendered a ship in peacetime in 200 years. Bucher looks at the body of Dwayne Hodges and the North Korean Marines assembling on the gunboat decks. At 14:32 hours, he orders his crew to stand down. North Korean Marines board the USS Pueblo. North Korean Marines secure the SIGINT spaces. They find intact cipher rotors, stacks of codebooks, and operational documents the crew could not destroy in time. The KW-7, KWR-37, and KG-14 systems are still bolted in place, their internal wiring exposed but not demolished. U.S. intelligence will later estimate the captured material compromises months of Allied SIGINT operations. Adversaries can reverse engineer the rotor wiring, exploit prior intercepts, and potentially read encrypted American and Allied traffic. The boarding party inventories the hull and radios Wonsan. The prize exceeds expectations. All 82 surviving crew are bound with rope and blindfolded. They are ferried to Wonsan, then transported inland by bus and train. The journey takes hours over frozen roads and rails. No one speaks. When the blindfolds come off, they are inside a detention facility in Pyongyang. The rooms are unheated. The walls are concrete. Guards separate the officers from the enlisted men. Commander Bucher is taken to a separate cell. The crew has no weapons, no communication with the outside world, and no prospect of military rescue. The only question now is how long they can endure. North Korean interrogators demand a written confession of espionage. Bucher refuses. The beatings begin that night. The rations are set at 600 calories per day, a bowl of turnip soup and a handful of rice. The crew loses weight rapidly. Within weeks, the extreme malnutrition leaves many crew members struggling to stand for the mandatory daily propaganda lectures. The interrogators return to Bucher. According to available records, they confront him with the deteriorating condition of his crew and threaten their execution if he refuses to sign. Bucher calculates his leverage and finds none. Pueblo's diesel plant was designed for endurance, not evasion. The engines produced 12 knots at maximum RPM. The Soviet-designed SO-1 subchasers pursuing her were diesel-powered vessels capable of approximately 28 knots, while the accompanying P-4 torpedo boats could exceed 50 knots. With the Pueblo roughly 15 nautical miles from the North Korean coast when intercepted at much closer range, the interception math becomes clear. Pueblo gains 1 mile every 5 minutes. The faster North Korean vessels close the distance at more than double that rate. The North Koreans corner the Pueblo within approximately 20 to 30 minutes of the initial challenge, well before she can reach the safety of deeper international waters or rendezvous with air cover. Speed is not a tactical variable for Bucher. It is a fixed constraint that guarantees capture unless someone intervenes. The 50 caliber Browning M2 is a proven weapon, but only when ready. Peacetime protocol required both guns to be stowed under canvas tarpaulins with ammunition locked below. According to naval records, the process of chipping ice from frozen covers and retrieving ammunition could take 10 to 20 minutes under combat conditions. Charging the weapon and preparing it for action would consume additional critical minutes. But historical accounts indicate the guns were never actually manned. Commander Bucher, assessing the intensity of enemy fire and the vulnerability of his crew, determined that attempting to operate the weapons would be a suicide mission for the sailors involved. By the time North Korean gunboats closed to boarding range and opened fire with 57mm deck guns, suppressive fire, the one tool that might have delayed boarding, never materialized. 3 tons of equipment filled the SIGINT spaces: teletypes, cipher rotors, punch tape readers, and codebooks. The Navy provided no thermite grenades, no scuttling charges, no demolition system. Manual destruction by hammer required an estimated 4 to 6 hours of uninterrupted work. The crew had fewer than 90 minutes from the first boarding warning to actual boarding. Chief Lacey and his team smashed what they could, but the cipher machines were built to resist exactly this kind of attack. Hardened steel housings protected the rotor assemblies. By the time North Korean Marines entered the SIGINT spaces, most systems were damaged but still intact enough for reverse engineering. Once North Korean fire killed Dwayne Hodges and wounded others in the pilot house, Booker faced a decision tree with no good branches: continue destruction and accept additional casualties from incoming fire, attempt to scuttle the ship, risking crew trapped below deck in freezing water with no functional scuttling valves, or surrender with classified material still aboard and preserve the lives of 82 men. Navy Doctrine offered no guidance for a lightly armed intelligence platform under attack in peacetime. Booker chose surrender at 14:30 2 hours. The North Koreans boarded 6 minutes later. The captured KW-7, KWR-37, and KG-14 systems were the backbone of U.S. naval encryption in 1968. These machines employed advanced electronic components, solid-state circuits, and vacuum tubes to scramble teletype and data traffic using classified encryption logic. With the machines intact, adversaries could reverse engineer the internal circuitry, test the encryption algorithms, and exploit prior intercepts stored on tape. Intelligence analysts estimated the compromise allowed adversaries to read months of encrypted U.S. and Allied communications. The loss extended beyond the Pueblo crew. Every ship, submarine, and shore station using those cipher families had to assume its traffic was no longer secure. Rations remain at 600 calories per day. The crew loses an average of 30 pounds in the first 3 months. Interrogators single out radiomen and cryptologic technicians, demanding technical details about encryption procedures and signal collection targets. When answers are refused, the beatings intensify. Bucher is told repeatedly that his confession will end the maltreatment. He refuses. The North Koreans respond by reducing rations further and staging mock executions in front of the crew. The psychological pressure is methodical, designed to isolate Bucher from his men and break the command structure. North Korean officials stage propaganda photo sessions to show the crew well-treated and cooperative. The crew realizes their captors do not recognize the middle finger as an insult. During the first session, one sailor extends his middle finger toward the camera. The guards ignore it. In the next session, more men do the same. When asked, they tell the guards it is a Hawaiian Good Luck Sign, a gesture of gratitude. The North Koreans accept the explanation. For months, the photos circulate in international media, showing smiling captors and defiant prisoners flashing the finger in every frame. Western observers study the propaganda photos and notice the recurring gesture. In late 1968, several publications identify the middle finger and publish the real meaning. The crew's covert resistance becomes international news. For weeks, North Korean officials dismiss the reports as imperialist propaganda. The guards continue staging photo sessions, and the crew continues the gesture, now certain the message is being received. Morale inside the detention facility rises. The men have proven they can resist, even without weapons, even under starvation conditions. In late 1968, North Korean officials finally learn the truth. Retribution is immediate. The guards conduct a week of systematic beatings, later called Hell Week by the crew. Every man is struck repeatedly, with fists, boots, and wooden boards. Several suffer broken ribs and concussions. The interrogators tell Bucher this is the consequence of his crew's insubordination. Yet even under renewed assault, the crew's morale remains intact. They had sent a message to the world and forced their captors to acknowledge it. The gesture cost them pain, but it proved psychological resistance was still possible. Bucher calculates his remaining options. Continued refusal guarantees prolonged starvation and the risk of crew deaths from malnutrition or untreated injuries. Signing a false confession may be the only path to release. According to available records, Bucher resists through absurd propaganda language and verbal disclaimers, knowing any coerced statement will be dismissed the moment his crew is freed. Meanwhile, U.S. negotiators work to establish their own conditions for any agreement, seeking ways to repudiate on the record whatever documents North Korea demands. On the day of signing, Bucher reads a prepared statement repudiating the confession as false and coerced. North Korean officials allow it, filming the disclaimer alongside the signing ceremony. Bucher then signs the document. The North Koreans release the signed confession to international media, claiming victory. Western governments and media outlets immediately note the prior repudiation and dismiss the confession as worthless. The crew's ordeal, however, continues. The signing changes nothing inside the detention facility. The real negotiation for release is happening elsewhere, in diplomatic channels Bucher cannot see or influence. December 23, 1968. U.S. negotiators sign an armistice document at Panmunjom, acknowledging the North Korean version of events, then immediately repudiate it in writing. North Korea releases all 82 surviving crew across the Bridge of No Return. The men are emaciated, some barely able to walk. Commander Bucher crosses first, leading his crew to freedom after 11 months in captivity. Behind them, the USS Pueblo remains in North Korean custody, the only commissioned U.S. Navy vessel held by a foreign power. Bucher steps into South Korea and is flown to a U.S. military hospital for initial processing before being transported back to the United States. Bucher faces a Navy Court of Inquiry in early 1969. The board examines his decision to surrender without destroying all classified material. The recommendation is court-martial for permitting capture of a U.S. vessel and failure to complete emergency destruction. The evidence presented includes the timeline: 12-knot speed, frozen guns, no demolition charges, and fewer than 90 minutes to destroy 3 tons of equipment. The Secretary of the Navy reviews the findings and declines to proceed with court-martial, citing the impossible circumstances. Bucher is quietly reassigned. His career in the Navy is effectively over. The Pueblo incident triggers immediate doctrine changes across the U.S. Navy. All future SIGINT ships receive installed demolition charges, scuttling valves, and enhanced defensive armament. Peacetime stowage of weapons under tarpaulins is banned. New procedures require ammunition to be stored in ready lockers adjacent to gun mounts, not locked in magazines below deck. Destruction drills become mandatory monthly exercises, timed and evaluated. The changes acknowledge what Bucher learned. A spy ship with no speed, no scuttling system, and no ready weapons is not an intelligence asset. It is a floating gift to the enemy. USS Pueblo remains in North Korean custody today, moored on the Taedong River in Pyongyang. It is a museum and propaganda exhibit, the only commissioned U.S. Navy ship held by a foreign power. Visitors tour the SIGINT spaces, which reportedly still display some of the ship's original surveillance hardware and teleprinters, and view exhibits claiming the ship was captured inside North Korean territorial waters while conducting espionage. The Navy has never decommissioned the Pueblo. Technically, it remains a commissioned vessel of the United States Fleet, hull number AGER-2, stationed involuntarily in an adversary's capital for more than 50 years. The crew's middle finger resistance becomes a legend within the intelligence community, a case study in psychological resilience when all physical tools are stripped away. Training programs for SIGINT personnel and aircrew now include Pueblo as an example of covert resistance under captivity. The The gesture itself, while celebrated by the public, drew criticism from some military officials and observers who viewed it as a dangerous breach of discipline that unnecessarily endangered the crew. Yet, it is now recognized as the crew's most effective weapon, a morale-sustaining act of defiance that required no equipment, no chain of command, and no external support. It proved that resistance is possible even when surrender is unavoidable. Commander Lloyd Bucher retires from the Navy in 1973 and settles in San Diego. He spends decades defending his decision to surrender, speaking at veteran events and writing a memoir. Critics continue to argue he should have scuttled the ship or fought to the death. Bucher's response never changes. He chose to save 82 lives over machines and secrets that were already lost. In 2004, he dies at age 76. His obituary notes he was the first U.S. Navy commander to surrender a ship in peacetime in 200 years, and the last officer to face a court-martial recommendation for doing so under impossible conditions. The cipher systems captured aboard Pueblo forced the largest emergency re-encryption effort in U.S. Navy history. Every ship, submarine, and shore station using the KW-7, KWR-37, and KG-14 families received new keying material and updated key schedules. The process took months and cost millions of dollars. Intelligence analysts later confirmed that adversaries exploited the captured machines to decrypt stored intercepts dating back several months. The exact extent of the compromise remains classified, but the incident accelerated the Navy's shift toward fully electronic encryption systems less vulnerable to physical capture and reverse engineering. Naval War College now teaches Pueblo as a case study in constrained command. The scenario examines decision-making when every option leads to failure, and the commander must choose the least catastrophic outcome. Bucher faced a choice tree with no winning branches: fight with no weapons, flee with no speed, or surrender with classified material still aboard. The case asks students to identify the decision point where the mission became unrecoverable. Most conclude it occurred before Pueblo ever left port, when the Navy sent a lightly armed intelligence ship into hostile waters, with no demolition system, no air cover on standby, and no doctrine for peacetime capture. The USS Pueblo incident redefined how the U.S. Navy understands vulnerability. A platform designed for intelligence collection proved useless the moment it faced physical threat. Speed, armament, and destruction capacity are not contingencies. They are baseline requirements for any ship operating in contested waters. Bucher and his crew demonstrated competence under impossible conditions. But competence cannot overcome a platform designed to fail. Today, Pueblo remains moored in Pyongyang, a steel reminder that intelligence is worthless if the platform collecting it cannot defend itself, escape, or destroy what it holds. The ship never came home. The lessons did.